Have you ever dreamed of a world where everyone is treated equally, irrespective of their race or color? A world where social justice and peace aren't mere words but a lived reality. It's a beautiful dream, isn't it? But dreams, they require courage. They demand perseverance. And above all, vision. Enter Martin Luther King Jr., a man whose life was the embodiment of these virtues. Born into a world where the color of one's skin dictated their destiny, King was no stranger to the harsh realities of racial discrimination. But it was these very experiences that ignited a spark within him, a spark that would grow into a blazing vision of peace and equality. As a young boy in Atlanta, Georgia, King witnessed firsthand the harsh sting of racism. He saw the indignity of segregation, the injustice of prejudice, and the pain of discrimination. Yet he also saw the power of love, compassion, and understanding to overcome these barriers. He saw that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit remained indomitable. These early experiences shaped King's vision, driving him to dream of a world where all people, regardless of their race or color, are treated with dignity and respect. A world where social justice isn't an abstract concept, but a tangible reality. A world where peace isn't a distant dream, but a lived experience. King's dream was audacious, it was bold, and it was challenging. But he was not deterred. He believed in the power of his dream, in the possibility of change, and in the potential of humanity to rise above prejudice and bias. He dared to envision a world that was not yet a reality, a world that many thought was impossible. But King was not just a dreamer, he was a doer. He dedicated his life to turning this dream into reality, to making the world a better place for all of us. His life was a testament to the power of a dream, to the possibility of change, and to the indomitable spirit of humanity. One man dared to dream, dared to challenge the status quo. His name was Martin Luther King Jr. Born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, King was destined to change the course of history. Our story begins with a young boy named Martin Luther King Jr., who was born in the heart of the South. His early life was steeped in the teachings of the church, his father being a respected Baptist minister. It was here, in the pews and the pulpit, that King first began to understand the power of words. But it wasn't just faith that shaped his early years, it was also the bitter sting of prejudice. Growing up in a segregated world, King experienced firsthand the harsh realities of racial discrimination. This early exposure to injustice would kindle a fire within him, a burning desire to challenge the status quo and fight for equality. His journey towards activism began in earnest during his student years. A gifted student, King earned degrees in sociology and theology, honing his understanding of societal structures and moral philosophy. His studies further fueled his passion for social justice and equipped him with the intellectual tools to challenge the systemic racism prevalent in America. In the mid-50s, King's journey led him to Montgomery, Alabama, where he would play a pivotal role in one of the defining moments of the civil rights movement, the Montgomery bus boycott. It was here that King's leadership shone brightly, his unwavering commitment to nonviolent protest inspiring thousands to stand up against the unjust segregation laws. For over a year, the African American community of Montgomery refused to ride the buses, their peaceful protest eventually leading to a Supreme Court ruling that declared segregation on public buses unconstitutional. This was a significant victory, not just for the people of Montgomery, but for the entire nation. It was during this time that King emerged as a national figure, his eloquent speeches and charismatic leadership capturing the attention of the world, his courage, perseverance, and vision becoming a beacon of hope for those yearning for change. King's leadership during the boycott was the spark that ignited the civil rights movement. This was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey, a journey that would forever change the landscape of America. After the successful boycott, King found himself at the forefront of a national movement. The Montgomery bus boycott had lit a spark, and from that spark, a roaring flame of civil rights activism emerged. Martin Luther King Jr. found himself thrust into the leadership role of this movement. But King was no reluctant leader. He embraced the role with a steadfastness and determination that was as unyielding as the oppression he was fighting against. King's leadership wasn't marked by aggression or hostility, but by a philosophy of nonviolence influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's principles. He believed in the power of peaceful protests, boycotts, and speeches to bring about change. This approach wasn't one of passivity, but rather, it was a strategy of active resistance without resorting to physical violence. And then came that day, August 28, 1963. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. King stood before them, the Washington Monument towering in the distance, and delivered one of the most powerful speeches in American history, the "I Have a Dream" speech. In his speech, King painted a vivid picture of a nation where all citizens, regardless of their race or ethnicity, lived in harmony. He dreamt of a nation where his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His words were a clarion call for equality, justice, and freedom, a call that resonated with millions across the nation and around the globe. But King's struggle wasn't just about rights for African Americans. It was about human rights. It was about ensuring that every person, regardless of their race, religion, gender, or socioeconomic status, was treated with dignity and respect. It was a struggle for equality in its truest sense. King's words echoed around the world, inspiring millions to fight for equality. His legacy is not just one of dreams and speeches, but also of action, courage, and an unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Despite facing numerous challenges, King never wavered from his path. His journey was not a smooth ride, but a tumultuous voyage, filled with obstacles that would have deterred a lesser person. Yet, through it all, King held fast to his vision, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. One of the most significant challenges he faced was his arrest in Birmingham, Alabama. Racial tensions were high, and the civil rights movement was met with fierce resistance. King was arrested and thrown into jail, a clear attempt to silence his voice and quell the movement. But it did not break him. Instead, it fueled his resolve. From the confines of his cell, he penned the now famous Letter from Birmingham Jail, a powerful declaration of his commitment to justice and equality. Then came the bombing of his home, an act of violence meant to instill fear and force submission. His wife and children were inside, their lives hanging in the balance. But rather than responding with anger or violence, King remained steadfast in his commitment to nonviolence. He urged his followers to do the same, reinforcing his belief in love and peace as the ultimate weapons against hate. King's resilience and unwavering commitment to the cause were nothing short of remarkable. He faced threats to his life, the lives of his loved ones, and his freedom, yet he never lost sight of his goal. His strength, his courage, his conviction. They were his armor against the blows of adversity. No matter how many times he was knocked down, he got back up, dusted himself off, and continued to march forward. King's journey was not just a fight for civil rights. It was a fight against adversity itself. It was a testament to the human spirit, to our ability to rise above our circumstances and continue to strive for a better tomorrow. It was a demonstration of the power of resilience, the power of hope, and the power of a dream. In the face of adversity, King stood firm, his resolve stronger than ever. On April 4, 1968, King was tragically assassinated, but his dream did not die with him. In the shock and grief that followed his untimely death, the civil rights movement was thrown into confusion, but it did not falter. King's vision of equality and justice had become so deeply embedded in the hearts of his followers that they carried on, inspired by his enduring spirit. And so, King's legacy lived on, not just in speeches and marches, but in the changed hearts and minds of an entire nation. His death marked an end of an era, but certainly not the end of the struggle. His voice may have been silenced, but his words continued to echo, reverberating through the halls of justice, inspiring legislative changes that would forever alter the landscape of American society. The Civil Rights Act of 1968, also known as the Fair Housing Act, was passed just 7 days after his death, a testament to the power of his dream. And his impact was not limited to the shores of America. His message resonated across borders, inspiring movements for freedom and equality around the world. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance became a beacon of hope for those living under oppression, a guiding light in their fight for justice. In recognition of his immense contribution, King became the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. His birthday, January 15th, is now celebrated as a national holiday in the United States, a day dedicated to honoring his memory and reflecting on the values he championed. And so, his legacy lives on, in the hearts and minds of those who continue to strive for a world where all people are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. A world where his dream is not just a distant vision, but a living, breathing reality. Martin Luther King Jr. may be gone, but his dream lives on, inspiring generations to continue the fight for equality and peace.